Welcome to another episode of Yoga Biz Champ with myself, Michael J. I've been a little late releasing this episode. I've been busy launching my new brand and my new website, all under Yoga Biz Champ. I'd love you to check it out, get a preview. If you go to yogabizchamp.com/podlink and check out my new packages, my new free resources, and give me some feedback if you check it out. On to my guest today, which is Jackie Walsh, a good friend of mine. I'm inspired by her story of loss and grief and how she turned that into a beautiful studio called Hope Yoga. Enjoy. I've got Jackie Walsh from Hope Yoga. Welcome, Jackie.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited that you're here too, because we have a nice little history together. We were both, back in the day, not that long ago, really, we were mind-body champions, which meant we got to hang out a lot on webinars all the way through kind of COVID time. And then we got to hang out for reals in person, live post-COVID. And it was the Bold Conference. It was San Diego and then LA, I think. And then we also went to Missoula.
Yeah,
and we played around with
fun.
That was super fun. And I feel like there was a group of us that really clicked.
Yeah.
Maybe the
Definitely.
misfit group, I think.
It's a really fun group, though.
Yeah, I'm really glad to have you here. And because I see you're very active when you partake in a lot of things and you soak up a lot of knowledge. Jackie, let's get a little bit of a overview, but I'd love to hear a brief kind of overview of your journey through yoga and how you got to where you are today as studio owner.
Yeah, I started practicing yoga. The first time I was ever exposed to it was in high school in gym class. And I thought it was really weird. All of us were laughing the whole time. The teacher was just like breathing so loud, like Darth Vader loud. And it was very uncomfortable. And then I started practicing a little bit more frequently in college. One of my roommates had the Bethany Frankel yoga video.
Oh,
so
wow.
we'd watch it on TV. And
I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, it was like the same
yoga
class. Yeah, right. Way before all of the others. So did that. But really, I started practicing when my dad was sick with cancer for the last time. And for me, I was working a full-time job that was more than full-time. I was a race manager. So I was coordinating road races so I was working every single day of the week. It was really crazy hours. I was also bartending and then helping take care of my dad. So for me, yoga just felt like kind of this escape and like a place of refuge to be able to come to my mat and really just focus on myself for an hour at a time. And after my dad passed away, he passed away in March of 2013. And after he passed away, really yoga was just like my saving grace. My mom had passed away when I was 8 from breast and brain cancer. So lost both my parents pretty young. I was 23 by the time my dad had passed away. So being an adult orphan is an interesting place to be. But I'm the youngest of 6, have a huge family. My mom was one of 11. My dad was one of 5. So lots of cousins, lots of people in my support system. But yoga was really what has always been my saving grace, even up to this day.
Yeah, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but has that influenced how you run your studio? And how you
absolutely.
think about your teachers, your students? And
yeah, I think a lot of people are really intimidated by yoga. And at Hope, we really try to do our best to cut out that intimidation factor. And what I love so much is that there's not like a cookie cutter image of what our students look like. It's a diverse group of people coming in, all different ages, sizes, backgrounds, ethnicities, religious backgrounds. And it just is a safe space for anyone to be able to come to feel like they're a part of a community, that they belong. And our mission is directly related to me losing my parents because it's to transform grief into resilience.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
and I think when we think about grief, a lot of times we just think of the physical loss of someone. So, my parents, for instance, but there's so much grief that each one of us faces throughout our lives. If we think of just like COVID, the whole COVID era has probably been
Exactly.
a large awakening of what people see is another aspect of grief. It's lifestyle change, it's a diagnosis, it is the loss of someone or a loss of a relationship. There's just so many different times that we grieve throughout our lives. And being able to practice yoga to get into your body, get into your mind, feel more connected with
100%.
your spirit is what can take us to that place of transformation, to know that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, to know that the hardships that we have gone through can become something beautiful and meaningful and more impactful. So really, yeah, with the studios, with yoga, like I want to be able to help impact people's lives for the better. And that's been my drive for opening Hope Yoga, which I guess we didn't say. I opened the first studio
Well,
January.
let's even back up. So
Yeah,
we just got you trained.
yeah,
I'm really sorry I
right.
jumped you way too far ahead. But I was just really
That's
curious
okay.
there about how really when people walk through your door, that feeling that yoga gave you, I think if I almost feel like that's sometimes really the driving force is that
Yeah.
we hope that other people
You
that
want to
feel.
share, you want to share the positive aspects that it has transformed your life. So for
And
me,
yoga is a
it's
perfect grieving space too. It's such a, I won't go into the whole story, but on one of the episodes of my podcast, I told a story about somebody that came through for a year through the grief process. But what I learned through that was the people that I saw that came, even if they just were in the back and not doing everything 100%, but when they took care of themselves, there was so much present post.
I listened to that one that you had, and I
Yeah.
like it was so reflective on so many people that I've witnessed.
Yeah, you see
And
everything in a studio, right? Marriages,
yeah,
births, deaths. In a studio, we see the cycles of life right in that space.
totally. And I think there is even in a class, you see this cycle as well. From the beginning, people walk in and they might be really happy, they might be blah, they might be agitated, they might be really stressed out, and they come to their mat and you just see how they are in this natural state. And then you watch this progression throughout the entire class, and then they land in Shavasana, and you're like, night and day difference in how each person is after just an hour's time. So I think that in itself, just witnessing people on their mats after class, and even my own experiences, every
Yeah.
time I'm on the mat and I get out of that place, I feel so much better every single time. It's the hardest thing is to show up for yourself, but once you do it, you've never said, I regret going to that yoga class.
Yeah.
No, you're always like, thank God that I really needed that today.
Yeah. And I always say, after 20 plus years of teaching, I quite often say, I don't give a shit about the yoga pose anymore. I care about how people leave feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
you became a yoga teacher. This is when
Became
you've
a
got an
yoga
ADHD.
teacher.
This is when you have an ADHD podcast, huh?
Hey, I hop all over the place too, so it's fine.
But no, I think that
Uh
was really good information. So yeah. So anyway, yeah, back to your journey.
Yeah, I'd like to be clear that when I did my teacher training, it wasn't to be a teacher. I have a large support system. Like I said, come from a huge family and lots of friends and extended family from that. But after I lost my dad, it was like, I'm 23 years old. Everyone's giving me advice as to what I should be doing. I quit my full time job and I was still bartending. And it was just like, what the fuck am I doing? Nothing even matters,
Mm.
basically.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I ended up going to Bali with my sisters. Just they were going on a trip and I decided to go with them. And I met these two yoga teachers there, Alicia and Oliver. And I ended up signing up for their training. So I was home for a while. And then I went back to Bali and did this training. It was 5 weeks long. There were 24 of us from all over the world, which was just an amazing experience in itself. And I did not have the intention of going into it wanting to be a teacher. I was just like, I need to get the hell out of Cleveland and away from everyone.
The
And
best
just like,
teachers come out of the ones that never wanted to be a teacher. Seriously.
exactly. Yeah. So it was it was much more of a whole transformative process for me. I was in Bali for 2.5 months. I did the 5 week program, traveled a little bit, then did 100-hour yin training with the same teachers, and then traveled a little bit more, and then finally came back to Cleveland right before the holidays. And I just hit the ground running. I started teaching, and it was such a transformational experience for myself that I wanted to be able to share with other people. And I taught in pretty much every single setting you could think of, took every opportunity.
Scrappy yoga teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I taught at a bunch of studios. I taught really in any setting I could, and taught for about 5 years. And I always knew I wanted to open a studio once I started teaching, but wanted to wait till I had some experience. I even managed a studio, which was really helpful to
That's
get
good.
insight. Yeah. So I opened the first one in Fairview Park, which is the city I was born and raised in January of 2019.
And what's Ohio? There we go.
Yeah. So, like I said, the mission of the studio is to transform grief into resilience. Our pillars of hope are healing, growing, and thriving. So, healing any past dramas or traumas, growing physically, mentally, spiritually, and then thriving in a community of people that really cares about your well being.
Can I ask you a little bit about so that's got you had different names for them, but essentially mission, vision, values
Yeah.
there. And so can I ask you, did you do that from day one? Was that something you did right away, or did you learn along the way to do that? Like, was that, I'm curious about, because if I
Yeah.
always make new studios start there, or existing studios that didn't do that go back there.
Yeah. So it has definitely changed and evolved as I have and as Hope Yoga has grown. But it was always in memory of my parents. The mission was not as simple as transform grief into resilience. That's something that maybe a year in, I really honed in on. And for
It's a
some
hard
reason,
process, right?
yeah, I think for me, though, like the idea of it was always there, but for some reason I didn't want to just flat out say the word grief because it has such a
Mm,
negative
that's interesting.
connotation. Yeah, and I did a workshop, an online workshop with Citizen Yoga. They're based out of Detroit. Casey Must is the owner, and she led this. And it was during COVID when everything was shut down, and I was like, all right, I need to just get a little bit further into this. And it was during that workshop that I was like, this is what it is. And it's transforming grief to resilience. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know why I'm not saying
Like,
that.
ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. So just
Yeah,
someone giving you
yeah, yeah.
the push,
Permission.
just say
Yeah,
what you're doing. That's it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that is it. But the name of the studio, I also didn't say this, Hope Yoga. So my mom, she had breast cancer before I was
Yeah.
born. And when I was in first grade, she was re-diagnosed with brain cancer. And when she told us, she brought home a Newfoundland puppy and named it Hope. And that
Oh,
was like her way of saying everything's going to be okay. So obviously, everything wasn't okay, but
yeah.
it is now. But that's where the name of the studio comes from, is
I
from our
love that.
dog
I
Hope.
love that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And it's so meaningful too, the word.
Yeah, we have the back like story and our mission and a picture of both my parents and a picture of Hope hanging at both of the studios. So whenever people actually stop and read it, they're like, "Oh my gosh!" It's more impactful, I think, when they
Yeah.
see the mission of the studio.
Yeah. And how has that helped you make decisions in your business?
The mission specifically,
Yeah, all of it. Kind of feel like the kind of mission, vision, values are always point you in the right direction.
yeah, for sure. I think having a mission not even just for a business, but like for yourself can
Mm.
be really important in helping guide you in what is actually in alignment with what you value and
Yeah.
where you're hoping to go and where you're hoping to always stay consistent. So for me, it's constantly like a check-in, like why are we offering this or why are we hiring this
So when you're
person?
making a decision on a class or if somebody's going to fit into the studio, that's
Yeah, it's though the mission and our core values and our pillars of hope are really what are helping guide
yeah.
most of the decisions that we make. And sometimes it's not just like sitting down and really thinking about it, it just comes more naturally to me. And I think with our team, a lot of them, it's come really natural as well because they just know what our purpose is and what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So it is really helpful. And I think every business out there should have a mission statement, should have core values so that people can more easily relate to what they're doing, who they are, what they're offering, what they're providing. I know for us, that's like a very large part of the studios and part of our community that people are able to relate and connect to on a different level when they know what it is that you value.
I love that. And I think it's just such helpful information for existing studio owners or new or anybody. I just think that's such important information. And I always say it's not an easy process doing that stuff together. It's a little bit like therapy,
Yeah,
right? And I love what you said too, that it evolved
totally.
because quite often we'll put something down and that's it for life. But it's no, we need to revisit these things. And when you opened, I'm curious, did you feel like you had the business side of things, like you knew what to do, like you had your shit together, or did you feel like it was like hit and miss and learn along the way, or what was your what was your style when you?
Yeah, I think I naturally have a bit of business sense and creativity and problem solving skills. My dad owned his own construction company, so I like to think I got that from him. Though it'd be a lot easier if he was around to help with some of these things. There's so many times I'm like, damn it, I really wish I could ask you this question because you would have the best advice for it. But yeah, it's a lot of trial and error. I have invested a lot in coaching and personal and professional development, also for our team. I'm always looking for ways to improve. One of our core values for the studio is continual improvement. So that's something that I really want to make sure that we're always working
Mm,
on because you just, there's, it's not about striving for perfection. It's just about being able to know when it's time to keep evolving and keep
yeah.
learning.
Can I
Yeah.
just ask about that, the hiring the coach part? Because when I had my studio, I hired two coaches that completely changed things for me. And so I'm curious, for a lot of people, I talk to people every day that are thinking about coaching, but it's a big commitment, right? To make an investment in something. So can I ask about that process and the deciding factor of why you chose it and how it helped you, if it helped you?
Yeah. Yeah. I've worked with several
Yeah.
different coaches. And I did the Goldman Sachs 10K small business program. Did it during COVID. So it was online. It's usually in
Mm,
person, which I would have preferred. But I've worked with coaches online, I've worked with coaches in person. And like you said, there is an investment, but having, I think, a clear idea of what you need help with
mm.
is where you're going to see the return of investment. And you have to be willing to put in the work too.
That's it. They
Yeah.
keep you accountable.
Yeah, they keep you
I'm weekly.
accountable.
I'm weekly calls with most of my people, so it's we just keep going. It's things keep
Yeah.
moving.
And as a business owner, you wear 30 different hats on
Mm,
every single day. No day looks like the last, which is the excitement of it.
yeah,
But that accountability aspect is so helpful. And I didn't have a formal business background. I feel like I'm a jack of all trades. I've worked in all different
yeah, yeah.
industries
You are,
and
and also in this business, you're a marketer. You're every role, right?
yeah,
Until you
for
hire
sure.
for them.
Janitor,
Yeah, done it all.
teacher, boss. There's so many different
Yeah.
things that you do
But
as an owner.
did the coaching result in better systems or
Yeah,
understanding,
I think
clarity?
each one that I have done has been for specific reasons. And
Yeah.
every time that I do them, like I always get something out of it. And I say this about yoga, but coaching as well. It's just allowing yourself to shine like a flashlight of awareness on something that you're not seeing. Someone else can hold up like this mirror for you to be like, hey,
Totally.
this is what you're not doing. This is what you need to be doing. And this will help improve whatever it is that you're trying to solve.
Yeah,
So,
whatever. Yeah, it's
yeah, coaching
it's a fast track.
100%.
I find a lot of the people that I work with that get the most value are the ones that come at me with rapid fire questions. Right? It's answers to these, and it's I'll get an email, yes or no, Michael. We can keep things going, keep things moving. But
Totally. That accountability aspect is really helpful, though, especially because you talk about yoga being like present and everything, but my mind is always, did I do this? Did I do that? Like
just
30
like this
different things.
conversation.
Yeah, we're ping pong balling. It's fine. But the accountability aspect is huge.
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed coaching whenever I've done it. I will continue to work with different people. I have also done mentoring and coaching myself as the person offering it.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah. Because
really,
quite
really,
often our own blocks, our own personal blocks, can be the things that are blocking in a business, right?
oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We can always be completely in our own way. And I think business owners in general can be really hard on themselves. I know I'm someone who's
Yeah.
insanely hard on
It's
myself.
yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't give myself a lot of credit for things that I do.
Well, what a perfect segue into talking about my coaching packages. They are brand new. I've put a lot of time into packaging these 6-month journeys up. I've got 2 packages now. That's all I do. I've got a package called Start a Yoga Studio, it's a 6-month journey, and I've got a package called Grow a Studio, which is a 6-month journey. And so both of these packages are custom tailored to your needs. So I'm helping yoga studios launch with pre-sold founders memberships and covering costs on opening day. And I'm helping existing studios get their attendance up by 40 to 60%, sales up to 30-40%. So we're making big strides with some of these programs. So go check it out on my new website, which is Yoga Biz Champ /podlink, and you'll get all the details on everything about my programs there. And you'll also get a link to book a free chat with me. No obligation. If you've been dreaming about opening a studio or you've seen that perfect location, just book a free, no obligation chat with me. So that's yogabizchamp.com /podlink. Head to the bottom of the page and book a meeting with me.
So let's go back. Let's give you some credit.
Encouragement.
Give you some credit. You opened a studio.
In 2019, I opened my second one this year, this January 7th.
Can I go back to kind of curious about your structure? Did you start out with a structure of people, or was it just you and teachers? As that evolved, I'm curious about what your team looked like and what it has evolved to now.
Yeah, there were always more than just me. I had teachers and myself. With desk yogis, we started them as just they got free yoga, but I quickly realized that was not the route to go because then
Can we just tell people why?
Easy for people to not hold themselves accountable if they're only receiving free yoga. If they are being paid and it is a position, then they know what's expected of them. Yeah.
It's a big one, folks.
So big. Like I would never go back to just giving someone free yoga to be a desk yogi because they have a lot more responsibilities now, sales being one of them. Yeah, now we have teachers, desk yogis. I have a business development manager, and then I also have an assistant manager as well. And these roles have all completely evolved over the last, hope will be 5 in January. So over the last 5 years.
Congratulations. Did you have positions, or I'm just curious if you had, I need this role filled, or did the right person just come into your life and evolve into that perfect position?
Yeah, in some aspects, it was right person. I try to use my team in more ways than one and see what they're interested in. Because if I already have someone who's working for me who's really committed and dedicated to the studio and our mission and the community, then I'm like, how can I utilize them more? How can I pay them more to be even more involved and do things? And I do want to say that most studios operate a little bit differently than I do. Everyone on my staff is a W-2 employee. None of them are independent contractors. I started off as independent contractors, but changed during 2020 so I could take advantage of the PPP. And it ended up being the best decision that I've made because you hold people accountable to
because
what is
you literally
expected.
put like, I expect you to turn up to a meeting. I expect you to like all of those things, right?
Yeah. And I think with yoga, a lot of times it's not taken seriously as a business. And in order to be able to serve more people and positively impact their lives, we have to operate as a business or else we won't be in existence. So I'm really wanting to hold people accountable for what they're expected of and make sure that they take it seriously as a job. Fun job, but it's still a job and you have to do what's expected of you.
I have quite a few new studios opening or I've opened recently. And one of the interesting things that always comes up, it's the people factor, right? It's the team. And what they're finding on the first round of hires is a month in, you've got those ones that are super invested and are doing the posts on Instagram and really rocking, trying to get people back in. And then you've got those ones that they thought were going to be great and they just are like, just meh. They're just not giving, they're not answering emails quickly. What can you give advice to on that? It's because I think it's about getting the whole team. And I always think if that person's not willing, there's another person that probably will be.
Yeah, I think on any team, there's always going to naturally be some people who are really stand out to you that are just really amazing and super invested and involved. And then there are other people that are more like sliding by on what they can do. And for me, it's always having a conversation and asking them, is this too much for what's going on in your life right now? Is there a better way that myself or the management team can support you and make this role feel more manageable to you? Do you want to actually be involved in this community? And just I think asking the right questions to see if the person, a lot of times people are just burnt out. Yoga teachers and desk yogis, a lot of them have full-time jobs, and this is just a fun part-time thing. And if it's too much, then it's too much. You don't want someone to be the face of your business, the face of your yoga studio, when they're completely burnt out and they're not taking time for themselves. So it's, maybe we need to take a step back and take you off your classes for right now and get you back in practicing and feeling more like yourself. And then we'll revisit in a couple of months if getting back on the schedule is the right thing for you. But there are always going to be some people that I like to let them like weed themselves out and figure it out themselves. Because I had a massive firing of someone this year that was like really challenging to deal with. So I would way rather let someone weed themselves out if they're going to weed themselves out. And a lot of times I think people just don't, it's easy to get like into the hype of what a studio is and what they're offering. And everything looks very different from the outside looking in. When you're working in the business, you tend to see that it's not quite as glamorous as it might look on the outside.
I feel like we could do a reality show on a yoga studio.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's, I think, what happens a lot of times. People are like, oh, it would be so great to be a yoga teacher or to work at this studio and get to go to classes all the time and this and that. But we all have expectations of jobs that we're signed up for. And that just, I think, pulls some people away. Oh, this wasn't what I was expecting. And I'm like, okay, that's all right. If it's not working out, it's not working out.
And
Would
you're
love to
right
still
about
have you in
the
the community.
conversation. Yeah, you're right about the conversation, right? Because here's the way I deal with it there's the new studio owner and the existing studio. So either way, the new studio owner, it's the onboarding document of all the expectations. And that's not the legal document. That is just the expectations of the job, but that's the conversation around the expectations and whether we're in alignment. And if you really hit each point, and do you have any questions about this? And I'm doing it with an existing studio right now. They're about 6 years old. And so we're re-onboarding the team. And so all the existing people re-onboarding and having those conversations, or sometimes the conversations for the first time.
Yeah.
And what's turning up is it's been really great for them, even exploring opportunities that they could have within the studio walls and create extra courses and also finding out that this person is burnt out by 7 o'clock at night because of their job. And so it's really coming. But the other thing is it's bringing up with these new expectations with the existing people. Are you in alignment or not? The way with the direction we're going. And that's a really great place to figure out whether, okay, can we help you get in alignment? Can I support you get in alignment, or can I not? And it's just, if you can't, and what we're finding is too, with other studios is if they can't step up to the plate, they naturally do tend to go, I'm out.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the alignment piece is so huge because I have so many people that will apply to work at our studios that have never stepped foot in the studios.
I hated that as a studio owner in the same community. It's like, okay, but we've been here 15 years. How come you've never been here? And you want to work here now?
Every single time, same response back. Thank you so much for applying. We do not accept interviews with anyone who is not actively trying to be a part of this community. Again, I think it's the hype thing. People see stuff on social media or like reviews, or people tell them about your studios. And if they've never been there before, how are they going to know if they like it, if they fit in with the culture? That was
always a pet peeve of mine. Yeah. It's like, oh, you live like 5 minutes from here?
Yeah, if you're not making any effort.
You love yoga, you're a yoga teacher, and we're the only studio in town.
Yeah, you're not making any effort to even get to know who we are, what we offer, what we're about. And you just want to step into a class that has a bunch of people in it. So it's like people have to put in the work to be able to work for you as well.
Jackie, if you were to tell your younger self 6 years ago opening up, 5 years ago opening up, what would you tell yourself?
A lot of things. Yeah, run. I think a daily reminder for myself is to stop being so hard on myself and to allow people to support you in the ways that you need, and to be vulnerable and sharing what you need help with.
Give an example of that.
Yeah, I think the hardest part of business ownership for me has been getting myself into the schedule that really promotes me being the best version of myself. And really taking care of myself, because it's so easy as an entrepreneur to put yourself at the end of the totem pole, whether that be you physically taking care of yourself, reminding yourself to eat, closing your computer or your phone at a certain time, paying yourself. Like the list goes on. And that's the biggest part that I still struggle with, especially because we opened a second studio in January and I'm still like, what is the best schedule for me? We opened it so quickly that
I think that's such a great point. Is like that's for every human, really. I mean, it's not just studio owner, but designing your dream life so that you can maximize every part of it and have the energy for part of it. And I think that's really, I think it was Daniel Barbo, maybe, I think, said on my cast, like she designs her week like a yoga class with peak pose being Wednesday. And I
Mm,
loved that. We kind of
yeah.
ramp up and peak pose and then ramp down and maybe take Friday off. But I really liked that. But where that's applied in my life is I live by my calendar, but my calendar is color coded and it
Yeah.
has a gray box for book off. And you're not probably going to get me late afternoon because you're not going to get the best of me in late afternoon. You know, it's not my
Yeah.
sparky. It's my coach knows not to book in with me late afternoon. And so I think I look at my each day as how much energy output and how much can you give back to yourself, whether it's like book a lunch break, book your medical appointments, book time to catch up on your personal life, book time for a
Yeah.
walk or physical exercise. It's not, yeah. So I think
Yeah.
that's,
And being a business owner, it's so easy to just be a workaholic and not do those time blocks for yourself. And I think with opening a second studio, I've thrown myself back into that. Now I'm
yeah, yeah,
like,
it's relearning, right?
what is the best use of my time on a daily basis? And really just investing in what I need to make sure that the studios are continuing to grow and expand and that our impact can reach even more people.
Yeah. And speaking of growth, you open a second studio, and I met with someone this week and they're like, I want to grow. I want a second studio. I want a third. It's a very brave decision to take that next step to another studio because you're also taking on doubling your rent, doubling your payroll. Some things you get to consolidate between the two, like marketing and things like that. But then you're also perhaps potentially stretching your own time.
Yeah, especially with doubling staff and the community. And I'm so deeply tied to the studio because it is in memory of my parents. Like it's so
Yeah.
personal
Yeah.
that it can be hard to be the one in the spotlight all the time. And I don't like it a lot of the time. I can't just go to a class and practice and expect to like not talk to anyone
Yeah. You need to go to
or
another studio, right?
yeah, and I do sometimes because I'm like, I want no one to even know who I am, which is so funny. I went to another studio that my friend owns, and I was like, oh, this is so great. No one knows who I am. At the end of class, he's, oh, and I want to thank my friend Jackie, who owns Hope Yoga in the back corner back there for coming. And I'm like, why? I just want to be a student and no one like, I want to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah, you need to go to a
Um,
community center or Apple TV.
Yeah, but it's amazing. I wouldn't change it for the world. It, like anyone's jobs, it can be overwhelming and holding space
Yeah.
for so many people all the time and trying to put my best foot forward all the time is hard,
Yeah.
especially we all have stuff going on in our personal lives and it just can be challenging. So I try to give myself grace on that. And I'm still working on making my schedule better so that I can keep showing up in
And I think
alignment with who I am.
more systems help with that, right? The kind of the
Yeah.
systems and procedures that give you that a little bit of freedom. And then with your team that you do have, they really know their lane and what their expectations are. And I think that is where it starts when all of those things get in alignment. It starts taking a little bit of the pressure off of you. And I also remember when I first started in my studio and it was all about me, I probably took 3/4 of the classes. And then I very quickly realized that's not a sellable, viable business if it's all about me. And that's when I started
Yeah.
stepping back and just I stepped back to just teach the classes that fed me still.
Mm. Yeah. I still teach and I love it. And I don't think I would ever completely get off the schedule. I've done some like little stints of not teaching for a little bit of time, but I do really love it. And I am really grateful for the team that I have in place right now. The managers are great. All of our teachers and desk yogis are amazing. And I think really exceptional in continuing to expand our mission and help more people.
Do you do fundraising things? What kind of things do you do? And are they in alignment with your mission, vision, values?
Yeah, we do a lot with the local community. We do monthly donation-based classes. So we'll raise funds for different charities, organizations, causes. Right now, I just graduated our first class of 200-hour yoga teachers.
Okay.
So that was a really fun experience and a great learning experience for myself. But they have the opportunity. We have a class at each studio every week that they are teaching that are donation based. December through March, we'll have a different organization or cause that all of the proceeds will go to. And this
Yeah.
month being December, we are donating all of the funds for December to the Palestine Children's Relief Fund to help with all of the medical, food, water, and supplies for children in Gaza right now. But we'll do a local organization in January, February, and March. But that was one that we really wanted to highlight right now. So really, we're very community based. We want to help out the local community. We love partnering with other businesses too, small businesses especially, because if we don't support one another, then we can't expect us to still be here.
That was my probably biggest win in my community, was my relationship with my fellow business community. And when we did fundraisers, they stepped up because we knew we were screaming. Links went in every email we sent out, and we did shout outs in the classes and on the posters. But it was that two-way relationship in the community stuff that was just massive for us. When we did our year-end candlelight yoga for the food bank, we put numbers under everybody's mats and we did a draw at the end. And it was all community-based businesses that donated stuff. So it goes a long way.
Yeah, it really does. And there's so much to learn from other business owners too, not even just ones that are in the same field as you. I have a ton of friends that are business owners that we always bounce ideas off of each other, ask for insight, and it's been really amazing and helpful for sure.
Yeah. Jackie, we are going to wrap this up for today. Tell me something about you that most people wouldn't know.
I am actually a very pessimistic person by nature, which is hilarious because, when you think of the mission of a studio, transforming grief to resilience and hope, but by nature, I am very pessimistic.
But I think you use that in a very humorous way.
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah.
But it just is like I created Hope Yoga not only to help other people, but it was like something that I needed myself. So every time I go to a class or I'm at the studio or in the community, I always feel so much better and feel so much more supported. So it helps me get out of my pessimistic nature.
I love that. And what would you say is a favorite business app, tool, software, something that is a go-to what's your favorite?
Yeah, I would say Slack. That's our form of communicating with our staff. We used to do email, we used to do texting. And
why would you choose? I'm curious if you can let people know why you would choose Slack over, say, WhatsApp group.
So Slack is really great because you can break it down into so many different layers, and we have it very organized. So you have different channels that you label and you can post in, and you can put only certain people in them. You can put everyone in them. You can direct message people. So we've actually put everything in our Slack. I post a weekly update every single week for everyone to read. We have how-to videos if someone isn't sure about how to do something in our booking software.
That's it. You put it all in there.
All in there. So there's different channels for each thing.
And you pay per user, right? Is it that?
We do. Yeah. There's a free version, but I don't remember how long it lets you do the free version. But I think it's really worth it, especially the direct messages. And we have sub requests and all of that stuff in there as well. And for me, it has been so amazing because I think it's way more organized than emails are. And I'm not getting text messages at odd hours of the day or night. You can pause your notifications or silence them during whatever time frames you want. So we know that's how we're communicating with each other. But if you're not working right now, you don't need to be checking those. Right. Yeah. So it's setting a really firm boundary of how we're communicating with one another and when, and knowing that nothing needs to be instantaneous of how we're getting back to each other. So it's been a complete game changer for us. I would recommend it for anyone. Great. And
I would love a screenshot of your account setup.
Oh gosh, I could send you one, but you're going to be like, this is so much. We have so many layers. We even do like our shift recaps in there for the desk yogis and like cash drawer count. So
we're so going to get on a Zoom and you're going to give me a tour.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's so helpful. And in this day and age, everything's digital. So you can go back in and search for what you're looking for and find it. And I think it's really helpful to have everything noted in there.
That's great advice. Personal website, app, escape. What's your go-to?
One that I'm trying not to be on social media as much because I am an Instagram scroller. And although there are like a lot of forms of motivation with like quotes and all that stuff, I love looking at that stuff. But then there's also just like the funny animal videos that I'm always sending to my relatives. I honestly would say that I don't have a favorite app. What I am really loving is leaving my phone at home and going and taking my dog for a walk or a hike and just completely tuning out of all.
Yeah.
Because we're so connected with everything. I'm just like, I need time with nothing.
Yeah, Coach KI, Christina, she's been on my podcast a couple of times, and she said to me once, just go out, because when I go out, I put music in my head. I love music, so I put music in. I'm feeding myself with podcasts and learning. Yeah. And she's just go turn it off and see what happens. And creativity happens is what my experience has been. Right?
Yeah. I love listening to podcasts and listening to music too, but I found leaving everything at home.
You're recommending space.
Yeah. It's crazy because you'll notice things just like in nature. Wow, I never noticed that like that tree was that color before, and I walk past it every single day. It's just, I think it makes a really large difference if you're able to tune out and not be so connected to your phone or your headphones and just be present in nature is always really helpful for me.
I do like my gadgets, but I never have sound turned on and I never have notifications beeping.
I know my phone's always on vibrate and people are like, how?
I think mine came from being a yoga studio owner and teacher, because the amount of times that you don't want your phone going off during class, I think that just set the tone for me. It was like notifications and sound was always off for me.
Yeah. I just realized that my phone has been on Do Not Disturb all day. So that's
me too. I love hilarious. Do Not Disturb. It's actually my favorite button.
Yeah, it's great. Just hit that. It's like the snooze button.
How do people find you?
You can find me specifically. My Instagram is Jackie Walsh. Walsh, I put 4 H's on because someone else already had the name.
We'll put show notes.
Yeah, show notes. You can also find the studio, just Hope Yoga Studio on Instagram, on Facebook. Our website is www.hopeyogacle, as in Cleveland.com. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Thank you so much for coming today. And I feel like you've dropped some really great nuggets that you're going to see a whole bunch of Instagram reels coming out on. Thank you for joining me today and sharing with our listeners. I'm really glad we finally got to make this happen.
Yeah, I'm so happy that we got to catch up and do this. And thank you so much for inviting me on.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
Champ.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Yoga Biz Champ. I hope you're walking away with a few nuggets of wisdom to help your yoga studio thrive. If you're feeling inspired and ready to elevate your own studio or open your own dream studio, remember, I'm just a chat away. Head over to yogabizchamp.com/podlink and book your free one-on-one chat with me, Michael J., your guide to flourishing yoga business. If today's conversation sparked joy and insight, please leave me a glowing review wherever you tune in. Your reviews help me spread the word and help this community growing. And if you haven't already hit that follow or plus button to stay updated with the latest episode, please do, because there's plenty more Yoga Biz wisdom on the way. Stay flexible in the body and business, my friends. Namaste, and see you on the next episode.